Hey guys, we have a short, easy lesson today. Material, I think you already know a lot of it, but we need to lay some groundwork for working with triangles. So today we're going to talk about triangles. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at just triangles in general, and we say that triangles divide a plane, and remember a plane, you just think of it as a flat surface with no depth. We divide a plane into three sets of points. We've got the points inside the triangle, which we call the interior. I'll just abbreviate for interior. And then all the points outside of the triangle, which we call exterior. Always makes me think of the interior and the exterior car. And then we've got the triangle itself, which is just the rim. It's just the points on the triangle. And remember that there are just infinitely many points that make up any segment. So we've got the set of points that really is the triangle itself, the sides of the triangle. So we've got the triangle, we've got the set of points inside, or the interior, and then the set of points outside, which is the exterior. So let's look at some other terminology that we need to know. We can classify triangles by the number of sides. If we have a triangle that we call scalene, then every side has a different measure. So this one would be no congruent sides. Every side would be different in measure. An isosceles triangle has two sides that are congruent. Could even have more than two, could have three, but we just say two, at least two sides congruent. So let's say two congruent sides. An equilateral triangle has three, so they're all congruent. Three congruent sides. And those are the three terms that we use to classify triangles according to sides. Now let's look at angles. If we say that we have a right triangle, what we mean is that we have a triangle that has one right angle. It contains a right angle. So it has a 90-degree angle. So one angle equals 90 degrees. One angle of the triangle equals 90 degrees. If we have an acute triangle, then every angle in the triangle is less than 90. So each angle is less than 90 degrees. Every angle is less than 90 degrees. If we have an obtuse triangle, then not each angle, but one angle is greater than 90, but less than 180. So one angle is greater than 90, we'll say. Greater than 90 degrees. And we'll run into this terminology occasionally as we go, and it's very crucial to know what it means each and every time. So let's look at some examples. Let's say that we've got an isosceles triangle. If I have an isosceles triangle, it is a triangle that has two congruent sides, at least two congruent sides. And we say that those two sides are the legs, so that's a leg and that's a leg. And then we say that the third side is the base. And then these angles that go with the base, we call them base angles, and we call this one that go with the legs, we call that one the vertex angle. So let's take an isosceles triangle that is shaped a little bit differently. Because I don't want you to think that the base of a triangle is always the one that's on the bottom, because that's not so. We tend to kind of draw them that way and think that way, but it's not so. So let's take a look at this isosceles triangle that's not sitting on its base. So this isosceles triangle right here, let's say that this side and this side are the two congruent legs. So those are the two congruent legs. Then this angle is your vertex angle. Call that the vertex angle, where your legs come together. And then this side, the third side down here, is called your base. So this is your base. And of course this is a leg, and this other one is a leg. The angles that are at the base are called your base angles. So again, I've got my two congruent legs and my base being the third side. And then I've got my base angles, which are down there at the base. And then I've got my vertex angle, which is where your two legs come together. All right, let's take a look at equilateral triangle. That one is pretty straightforward. It's just any triangle where all three sides are congruent, like so. And occasionally you'll have a trick question somewhere that'll ask you if an equilateral triangle could be called an isosceles triangle. Well, what do you think? An isosceles triangle has two sides that are congruent. And that really means at least two sides that are congruent. Yeah, so if you think of it that way, then an equilateral triangle could be called, it really is also an isosceles triangle. But it's so much better to call it an equilateral triangle because that gives you a better understanding. But sometimes a trick question could be, could this be considered an isosceles triangle? And yes, it could be. But a more specific name would be equilateral triangle. So there you go. A right triangle, let's take a look. A right triangle is simply a triangle that has one angle equal to 90 degrees. And it will always be marked or told. You'll always know which one it is. So you've got one angle that's 90, and then you've got the two sides that form the 90 degree. Those are the ones that they call legs. So that one's a leg and that one's a leg. And those legs sometimes are actually equal in measure, and sometimes they're not. So it doesn't matter. They could be congruent or they might not be. This longer side, the side across from your 90 degree angle, is always longer than these legs, and it's called the hypotenuse. H-Y-P, hypotenuse, O-T-E-N-U-S-E, hypotenuse. So that's just what you call that angle, that side right there. And I think those are the main names that I really wanted you to know when we're talking about triangles. I think something else I'd like to call to your attention is if you have a triangle of any kind, let's just say that one right there. And there are three angles inside, so we call that the interior. So this angle 1, 2, and 3 would be called your interior angles because they're inside the triangle. If I pick a side, it wouldn't matter what side, I'll pick this one, and I extend that side a little bit, then I have another angle out here. Let's call it angle 4. And that angle has a name as well. And so this angle, because it's outside of a triangle, that one would be called an exterior. So let's just name it for right now. Exterior angle. Exterior angle. We'll talk more about them later, but I just want you to know what one is. So angle 4 would be an exterior angle. And I could take really any side of and I could extend it. And here's another exterior angle right there. And I could extend this one. And we'll call that one 6. There's another exterior angle right there. Now, so far, what I have drawn on here, I've drawn one exterior angle at this vertex, and one exterior angle at this vertex, and one exterior angle at this vertex. And I could draw even more. I could extend this again, and I could have angle 7, which is another exterior angle. And I could do that at each one of the vertices of that triangle. So just wanted you to know what exterior angles are and interior angles. And again, back to these are called the sides, and each one of these is called an angle, of course. an angle, an angle, an angle. And each one of these is called a vertex. A vertex. And if I want to look at the plural of that, I say vertices. So I would write that V-E-R-T-I-C-E-S. And that's just the plural of vertex. So the three angles, the point here, the point is the vertex point. The vertex is a point. When I was talking to you about isosceles triangles, let me draw another one right here. Isosceles have at least two congruent sides. We usually just say two congruent sides. Then the point of the angle included between those two congruent sides, we call that, when I said earlier, the vertex angle. Each one of every point of an angle is called a vertex, but that's particularly called a vertex angle, an isosceles triangle, and these two down here are called base angles because the base is included between those two angles. So this terminology, I think, will follow rather smoothly for you as we go on. We'll be talking about a lot of this terminology as we go. So if you're not already comfortable with all of this, make sure you are. Listen a few times, go over it, have someone quiz you on the different terms, and make sure that this is something that's just really, really second nature for you, because we're getting ready to go into some depth with some triangles, and I need you to be right with me on all the verbiage. So I'll see you in just a moment. And for you may take a break and do this in a day or two, but I'm going to come back in a few minutes and do two theorems with you. So I'll see you later.